Guys, I know we're deliberately trying to stir the pot a little bit with the title, but hear us out. Hear us out. This episode will include lots of opinions, will include lots of banter, some celebration and acknowledgement of the moment too, but largely lots of questioning. Because that's what we're left with after Abu Dhabi. Apart from the celebration of Lando Norris as Formula One's 35th world champion, we're also left wondering, could Max Verstappen have done more? And did the best driver win this world championship? So much to talk about. This is the Inside Line F1 podcast, the Abu Dhabi GP review, the season finale race, but not the season finale episode because we'll be back with the awards as well, where we rank the best moments of the year and present the funniest awards of the season, like the F1.5 world champion, who we can declare in a little bit, or the moment you missed, or the funniest moment, or these sorts of fun banter filled things that we normally tend to do. But let's start off with the big, hard hitting questions. Kunal, what's the food like in the Abu Dhabi paddock?
Oh, it was fantastic. I have eaten all the local delicacies I could get my hands on. The media center is beautiful. And in general, just the vibe between all the media houses and, all the journalists that, we would typically read all about. And very, very helpful, very friendly people. I met a lot of fun people in the paddock and the teams. Interesting. And Mark Hughes, a big note of thanks to him. After 26 years of full time reporting, he is stepping back a little bit. He will still write, but the legend is, just going to step back, slow down a bit, and not go to all the races as he normally would. But yeah, what an atmosphere! I think there were so many people, holding that "I need tickets" placard just outside the circuit periphery. And come Sunday, there were so many people. The who's who, literally. I saw Ronaldinho, the only one I could recognize, but there were lots of other celebrities. I believe Deepika Padukone and Ranveer Singh were also there. Not that I got to see them, but lots of celebrities, lots of corporate honchos, the who's who. Wow. It was one hell of a show in Abu Dhabi.
And Mr. Uvidya was also there. But Mr. Uvidya is the person who owns 49% of Red Bull. And he saw his driver give it his absolute best and end this season with more wins than either McLaren driver. But Sundaram, Lando Norris is our Formula One world champion. How are we feeling?
It's a very interesting feeling, because we've not crowned a new champion very frequently over the last 12 years of the hybrid era, just two before this, Nico and Max. So it feels a little alien for me seeing a new driver turn up and someone of Lando's demeanor. He's not the perfect cutout of what a world champion would be. Not very aggressive, not very ruthless in that image, but in my opinion, he's been a deserving champion. Like you correctly said, he's not had the driver with the most wins is Max, most poles is Max, most laps led is Max after Abu Dhabi. But the driver who had the most podiums is Lando. So over the entire campaign, the driver who did well and did limit damage the most was Lando, in my opinion. And there are two things that I really liked about Lando winning the championship this year. First is foremost, like they always say, your biggest competitor is your teammate. He did beat Oscar fair and square, and he beat Max Verstappen en route for his first title. So if Lando ever has to go back and cherish his title win, the biggest takeaway is that he beat a prime and in form Max Verstappen.
Did he, Sundaram? Did he?
He finished 2 points ahead of him over the entire campaign. He beat Max Verstappen on points and in the championship. So I think he will cherish the fact that for en route to his first title, he beat a Max Verstappen.
Look at the smiles, Kunal. You have something to say.
Sundaram said he beat Oscar Piastri fair and
Oh, okay,
square.
sorry.
I will go with yes. He beat him square. Yes, I'm not sure it was all fair out there,
If you
but
go back to
even
Monza, how many
yeah,
points did he gain from Monza? Three, three wasn't it?
yeah,
Yeah, three.
yeah. Not just that. No, I mean, we won't break it down. Is he a deserving champion? I think so. Let's ask that question.
Yeah.
What do we all feel? Is he a deserving champion?
By he, you
So
mean
that
Lando Norris? Yeah.
by he I mean Lando Norris.
Short form clips. Like let's just put it out there. Is Lando Norris a deserving champion? What do we feel, Kunal?
Absolutely, he is. I mean, yes, Max has more wins, more pole positions, but Lando delivered. And the rule book says that it's after Abu Dhabi, whoever's got the most points wins. And if you ask me, yes, the heart says Max has just had a better season because that's Max. He's been ruthless. He's come back in, the fourth fastest car. But yeah, I would say all three of them were deserving. Just the way I would say 2021, Lewis Hamilton was equally deserving as well. And you know, different drivers have a different personality, different way of winning things, and this is just Lando doing Lando things, which we should probably get used to.
By the way, a huge shout out to Samarth Patel, who was watching the Inside Line F1 podcast on YouTube in 2021. Rather, I should say, since 2021, he's been following us. And we did a prediction league at that point. And Samarth got his prediction right. He said Lando Norris will win a world championship in the future. And he nailed it. This was in 2021, before Lando had even gotten a podium. Remember, Sochi, he was about to win a race, and that didn't quite go down. And this is what I was reflecting on today, that we doubted Lando Norris so much. We said he was no luck Lando and things would not work out after Sochi. It took him 110 races to win his first Grand Prix, near as much as Nico Rosberg. And then after that, after 7 years staying at the same team, Lando Norris is now a world champion. It to me feels like Project McLaren is complete, guys. Because I don't remember, apart from Max, the last driver who stayed so long with one team and eventually got his reward, apart from Nico Rosberg. So like Max, Nico, Sebastian Vettel, it's a very short list. It's a very short list that.
Yeah, and I'm waiting to see what you've been saying all along, Somil, that after winning your first world championship, you may just unlock something else. Is that unlocking the one unlocking that we're all hoping to see in Lando Norris is his ability to handle pressure, his ability to make less mistakes, his ability to go wheel to wheel with Max Verstappen and come out on top. Is that the unlocking that might happen after
Yeah.
the win that he's had today? I would love to see that.
Actually, let's just put it out there. Lando's our world champion, and he's going to be back next year. But what do we want to see better from our world champion? What would make Lando Norris take on Max Verstappen and be head and shoulders at his level? At this moment, he isn't. And I believe the first thing is adaptability across conditions. Because the one thing that was certain the entire season was Max will be there. I don't think you could say that for either McLaren driver, could you, Sundaram?
No, you couldn't. And we've seen that with Lando as well. His campaign's been ebbing and flowing. I would say Oscar's had the more consistent run, at least for 75% of the season. But Lando's always been quick. Even in previous seasons, he's always been quick. But it was these little issues or these little mistakes that he was been making, and we were very critical of those. But he's managed to come back, and that's the point eventually. It's nice to see Lando have those struggles. I think after Zandvoort, he was 34 points behind Oscar, and everyone had written him off. But we still managed to see Lando 2.0 or Lando 3.0 over the last six races. And I think that's a beautiful way to end your championship. And like you correctly said, Somil, Project McLaren is complete. Lando had done 110 races before he won a race. No one has ever spent so many races with McLaren before a race win. Lando did 15 podiums before a race win. And it's just a year and a half before he even had a first win. So I like seeing Lando's progression over the past several years.
Kunal, Helmut Marko revealed on the Inside Line F1 podcast that they tried to contact Lando in 2019. By they, I mean the Red Bull driver program. And they wanted to take him away from McLaren even before he'd signed for that team. And he chose McLaren. And then came the contract renewal midway through his McLaren days. And then Lando said, I want to be here. And that was when McLaren was a lower midfield team. And he said, I want to win championships with this team. Sometimes statements like those can be looked at as PR nonsense, but some drivers are able to turn that into reality.
Well, he was right when he said he wanted to win it with McLaren, and we've seen that happen today. But a lot of this is down to timing. A lot of it is down to luck. A lot of it down to performance. Just because he said it doesn't mean it would happen. Much like just because Arvid Lindblad said to Lando, "In 5 years I'll see you in Formula One," doesn't mean it would happen. Just because Lewis Hamilton did the same thing to Ron Dennis doesn't mean it would happen. But yes, it just sounds prophetic now, absolutely. And imagine if Lando Norris had actually signed for Red Bull. Maybe he would have been yet another driver losing his career to the second seat in Red Bull Racing. Or maybe Max Verstappen always knew that Lando Norris would be a threat. So, what's the best way to address the threat? Make him your teammate and then get Red Bull to not favor him. We've actually seen, I've said this before, battles are settled off track before they get even played on track. So maybe that was one of those things. And we have Kayela saying Lando Norris's win will always be tainted by papaya rules and perceived bias against Oscar with the constant conflation of equity with fairness. I have one thing to say about that. I probably have met about 200 media people in the paddock in Abu Dhabi. And every single person, of course, I'm generalizing now, every single person was of the opinion that Oscar Piastri should have wrapped this several races ago had he
Yeah.
gotten all the priorities from McLaren, right? So there is that part which people, and these are people who report, these are people from across nationalities that I, people from Brazil, Japan, and you name it, even Argentina for that matter, right? But there is, of course, the British journalists, the British media, typically the ones who we read the most, who want a British world champion. And why not? I would love an Indian or a Norwegian world champion, if I may call it that way now. So at the end of the day, just the way 2021, which of course I'm going extremes now, is tainted in many ways. And yes, Max has won it officially, but a lot of people consider Lewis as the eighth title or whatever. I would say it's pretty similar to this, that yes, it's tainted with papaya rules, but at the end of the day, you've got to use everything in your favor. And guess what? Lando Norris used the team in his favor.
Yeah. And
That's Formula One.
in 21, Max Verstappen used Sergio Perez to his favor. Today they tried with Yuki Tsunoda. It just didn't work out. It was comical, honestly. Farewell, Yuki. We'll talk about you in a second. But you've got to do whatever you can. And that's what every successful team in the past has done. I mean, Ferrari openly sacrificed Rubens Barrichello to get Michael Schumacher his world championship. So it's not even a debate here. But we will get to Sarika's comment in a second. She's speaking about Williams. And I do have to tell you guys about the great comeback along with Max that we guys have completely ignored. So we'll get to that. But I want to talk about Max here because guys, at the end of the day, Max Verstappen has only lost this year's World Championship by 2 points. Where could he have gained 2 points? I clearly look back at the Spanish GP and his moment of rage against George Russell as a clear example of where those 2 points could have come out. Imagine if the setup wasn't as bad in Brazil, maybe he wouldn't have to fight Kimi Antonelli on the final lap, and maybe he would have had that position, and maybe that's where the 2 points could have come from. Do you think Max did everything? Did he do 100% to get the championship, Sundaram?
You mean today
No,
specifically?
the entire season because there's points on the table.
No, I think in terms of Max, what Max could control, I think he did absolutely everything that he could do. There was it was largely down to the car not being set up for his comfort, and which they did get right towards the latter part of the season. And like we've always discussed, they've always had this issue with finding that right setup over the course of a race weekend. That's largely on Red Bull and not on Max. I would really, yes, the Spanish GP thing was you what something would you say as a fit of rage, but that's the thing with the whole season. It's more when you have 24 races, every single point counts and every single move that you make counts. In that sense, I'm actually a little disappointed that Max didn't make a race or a battle out of today's race. Everyone knew what was possibly going to go down. Everyone knew what he might end up doing, which is basically backing the rest of the drivers to see if Norris falls below the podium. I'm a little disappointed that didn't play out.
Exactly. Exactly.
But
And
I have something to say on the Spanish situation. Max has already said that was the worst moment of the
Yeah.
season for him, and he lost points. And believe it or not, Soumil, there was a journalist in the media room who actually asked this question. And Max was furious at the journalist to the extent that Max said, "Now you're going to have that stupid grin on your face while we talk about it." And then Max literally said, that there are 24 races that define the championship and not just one moment out of there. And he said, I actually got a lot of early Christmas presents from McLaren in the second half of the season. And Max went on to say that, uh, he said that, we just did a perfect second half of the season, and that's all that we wanted. And he said he's actually had one whole bad year. He said second half of last year, first half of this year, he was not very pleased. But the way Red Bull has bounced back, and I think what Sundaram has asked is very interesting. Could Max and Red Bull Racing have done something different to not just win the race, but also try and engineer some way of winning the title? So let's look at the scenarios, because after qualifying in the top three, what could he have done? He would have hoped that Lando messes up the start, which is something we've seen happen before,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But
Recently.
Yeah, well, Lando was pretty okay on the start, even though he got overtaken by Oscar on the hard tire on the opening lap itself, right? Then he could have hoped that he bunches the field up and then messes up Lando's strategy. And because when are the two weakest points when McLaren have been found lacking? First, on the driver's side, it's starts and wheel to wheel battle against Max. That couldn't happen because Max just ran away. Okay. And second is strategy when McLaren is suddenly made to choose outside of the ordinary. So by backing up the field, could Norris have been thrown into the midfield, or Fernando Alonso was running a DRS train and so on. So Max probably did none of that. And I actually my hero of the day, my driver of the day is Max for the way he accepted defeat, because this was yet another way of a layer of his personality which we've not seen before. Okay, we've only seen him win. Okay, but he was gracious in defeat, and he thought, okay, if I lose by 2 points, I do. We've given it everything, and let Lando win it cleanly. Let
Hmm.
me lose it cleanly. Don't you think that
No,
was the
no,
case?
no,
No,
Kunal. I understand that, but there's a part of me that also wants the ultimate fighter.
I do.
And
Yes.
I don't care about clean. I don't think backing someone up is unclean. It's you just have to cross the finish line first. Nobody says that you've got to cross it as fast as you can. You just have to cross it first, and
So,
in any
yeah,
legal
yeah.
way. So I honestly go back with the feeling of maybe he didn't do enough.
I'll
Maybe he could
I'll
have done more.
I'll put it this way. So I spoke to one of the head of strategies at one of the teams. Okay, discussing. Actually, I got lucky in the morning. We couldn't find time to speak, so we walked from the hotel to the circuit. And I said, okay, so can you all get involved, and can Max slow people down? And he told me it's not the old layout. Okay, when you can slow people down and and still not lose track position. He said this circuit you need to have extremely fast exits, and you need to be very sure of your traction control and how you're managing your traction. So he said slowing down is not going to be as easy, even if it is somebody like Max Verstappen. In fact, if he would slow down, there were chances he would lose the lead. And then, of course, Max himself said that with Oscar starting on the hard, suddenly he realized that it's not going to be easy to just slow the pack down. So Max did what he thought he had to do best, which was slam the throttle, show everyone I'm the best driver. We've got a fast car. I'm going to win it by like 15 seconds. Unfortunately, it didn't get him the title win though.
Yeah, and Oscar on the hard was clearly a big issue, Sundaram. I think that pressure that Oscar was putting. In fact, that's what Will Joseph spoke about in the F1 TV post show. He said that we didn't quite plan it out, but we'd also discussed what would happen if Oscar got past Lando, and that would naturally threaten Max because there's a faster car behind, and so he can't afford to slow down. And the question I want to put to you, Sundaram, is about McLaren's preparation and strategy. Because Will Joseph said that we have a different style, Lando and me. He said that he's primarily been an engineer, and learning the psychology of working with a driver has been very interesting, and particularly engineering that success with Lando. It's a very peculiar style. They discuss a lot more detail on the radio than I've ever heard any team or driver do. We've criticized it a lot, Sundaram. Now, can we call it a successful approach?
I mean, in which sense do you mean?
The approach of Will and Lando discussing everything down to the last minute detail on the radio, and sometimes the coaching, the consulting. It's it's different. It's successful now.
I think there's nothing wrong with it. See, as much as they say it's a drivers' championship, a lot of it is also enabled by the team. And yes, we've also tried to ban radio messages from teams just to make it a little bit more exciting in that regard. But I don't see anything wrong with it as long as you're able to give your driver the right platform and that driver is able to then find the right setup to take that car and perform with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So in that sense, it's totally fine in my opinion.
I actually have a great story about Will and Lando from the start grid. So I was on the start grid and I was very eager to see the tape gate play out because I knew that. So Lando drove in and of course he was put on they have the trolleys on which they bring the car into the grid slot and they brought the car into the grid slot. Now I was standing exactly at the spot where they would put the tape. Okay, so Will Joseph literally came and he pushed me onto the side because they have 1 minute to calibrate this before the driver has to get out. But beautifully, the tape actually had a message today. I don't know if it's ever had a message before. Okay, the message. So Will actually turned the tape, and the tape said, "You got this." R2. I don't know what R2 meant. Either way, we'll find out at some point. But the tape said, "You got this." So Will showed him the tape. And then he went and he was adjusting it and then he put it on the wall there. So I was like, wow, not only did I see the tape gate, but I saw what McLaren had written on that tape for Lando Norris. And Lando's a different champion. And maybe, Soumil, you said in the preview, this is a Gen Z champion,
Yep.
right? Could the future champions be similar? Is Lando leading, a new wave of champions, inspiring a new wave of champions where it's okay to be honest about your struggles, embrace them, and show that that is your strength. You don't always have to be a macho man, if I may, just put it that way in a box. But I'm not used to these kind of champions, I have to be honest. But I would love to see if I'm able to, uh, you know, understand what's Lando Norris's way of being a world champion. And Lando's gonna come and made a statement saying, in the Times I've made some comments about Max and about Lewis. Did I wish I didn't make those comments? Yes. Could I take them back now? No, but this is who I am. Sometimes I say silly things. So, Lando's, of course, opened up a lot more in the hours after his world championship win. But can we just go to a couple of comments? Sadhna is asking, were
Yes.
you guys at the Grand Prix? How was it? Was it as boring as it was on TV? It was an underwhelming race, and underwhelming is now becoming the word of the season. And I was lucky enough to be at the Grand Prix. I wasn't coming to Abu Dhabi or I wasn't coming to Yas Marina for the Grand Prix, but then I just decided I'll anyway do a broadcast with Viaplay. I was trying to do fan code and commentary, but commentary was beyond the I think the internet in the media center would have just blown up if I would have just started to do commentary with you guys, Somil.
Yeah, it would have been crazy, and it was such a crazy season ender to call. Such an experience, and I was just amazed at how much energy the body and mind can sort of surge even when you're tired. Because I'd taken like a 3 a.m. wake up flight the night before, and that's after having like a 6 hour long shift at the Indian Supercross Racing League, doing the broadcast and content creation and the pre-show there. So I was physically very tired, still am, but somehow for Formula One, somehow for a season finale like this, the energy just comes up, and this is what we've noticed so often, Sundaram, haven't we? Like even when we're traveling to and fro from a club race, you feel these things and you're like, motor racing can really drive these emotions out of you. And we saw the culmination of that with Lando celebrating with the fans at the end.
I think I'm most disciplined when I'm around a racetrack. I sleep so less, but it doesn't really matter. The passion and the energy of it, being trackside or watching a race in front of you, that really gets the motivation kicking in its own. And that's very nice to see, even with Lando's case as well. Him opening up after the race. And I actually want to see where Lando goes from here, because it's a massive weight off his shoulders right now. That first title, that's a big hurdle for any driver. That's your biggest dream. Now that you've achieved that, how does Lando turn up next year? I think
Yeah.
it's only upwards from here. I think it's only going to be he's only going to get stronger. And you asked that in the earlier part of the episode, what are the little things that he has to improve on? If we see a more consistent Lando, if we see a Lando that has better racecraft, especially when it comes to battling wheel to wheel with the likes of a Max, I think it's going to get even more interesting. So I think Lando's ceiling is not yet there, and there's more to see from him.
Yeah, I think racecraft is the one thing. Next year, racecraft hopefully will be tested a lot more. And that's what I'm very excited to see. All my dons from the midfield. I'm excited to see Oscar Piastri because I really like his racecraft. I think he's very clean and fair. Not as not as aggressive as Max, but pretty fair. But another don I'm really excited to see in the midfield, just to shape the conversation slightly away from the top three.
No,
It's
let's let,
Carlos.
let, let, let's discuss Piastri. I think we've not
Oh,
been fair to
you
him.
don't you don't want me to talk about Carlos Sainz? That's
Not yet.
heartbreaking.
I think
That's
we should do
heartbreaking.
Piastri. I think it should
Yep.
be Piastri, and I'll tell you why. I think just the way Lando Norris has shown character and Max has shown character, I think Oscar Piastri showed even more character,
Yeah.
accepting that he's learning a lot this season, and adversity has been one of those things which sort of have been his biggest learnings from, right? And for a lot of people, he's still one of those deserving winners of the season. And he was asked, what's the difference between winning a Formula 3, Formula 2 championship and a Formula 1 championship? And one of the things he said, very, very beautifully, he explained, he's like, you don't need to win an F3 and F2 to show that you're, worth for Formula 1, but you need to win a title in Formula One to show that you are a world champion.
Yeah.
And I think that was a beautiful way of explaining it. And he said the best example of this, analogy, or the best driver for who fits this example, that you don't need to be a champion in junior series to become, to become a Formula One driver and then become a world champion. There is Max Verstappen, and Max
Yeah.
was right there. So I think that was a beautiful thing. And then he said, the other big thing he learned is that the Formula One title challenge is too long. He said it's 24 races. He's the longest I've gone in a junior series is 10 races. So he's like, this is 2.5 times too long. But the way Piastri conducted himself on track, off it, I think again, very, very classy. And the way we are eager to see what's next for Lando Norris, I think Oscar Piastri is also going to get stronger and stronger from this experience in 2024, including how to handle team politics.
That is going to be the biggest learning. So, two things to improve for Lando. We discussed consistency across a wide variety of racetracks and conditions, which has obviously gotten better. And of course, racecraft. For Oscar Piastri, those two learnings. Number one has to be team politics, because that's been the one place where things have really gone wrong. And I think they were in a quest for fairness, which just never really arrived in his favor. Call it luck, call it whatever. And the second thing is also managing a dip. And if
Yeah.
Andreas Stella is to be believed, low grip conditions, because that's what eventually cost Oscar Piastri the world championship. When you come to think about it, Sundaram, that patch after Baku, or rather from Baku, theoretically has cost him the world title, and that's okay for a driver in his third season in Formula One.
That's okay. That's fair. That's okay. But the fact is that, like, I just have it in front of me right now as well. Oscar has been mega consistent throughout majority of the season, and that dip, when that happens, that dip was really bad. Even in the case of Lando, whenever he had that dip, it wasn't as bad. The dips were largely in qualifying, and he was still able to make positions or points back during the race. But in Oscar's place, the crash in Baku, then the disqualification in Vegas, and the sprint DNF as well, those dips were really really low, and that lost a chunk of points for him. And that's and when he did manage to get back up, it was too late by the time he came to Qatar. Even in terms of qualifying performances, not just in terms of points, I mean, he was just out of form for a very long time. And that's one of the things that he definitely has to learn going forward, is how soon can I bounce back from a setback.
I actually call BS on that whole low grip stuff, because
Yeah.
you know, Jeddah is low grip, China is low grip, and he was fast there. But Lando wasn't fast, so that was a variable there. So I'm not saying he's not learning, but Soumil, I'll also put it this way: there's a big soft corner. If you see, even in our comments, okay, I can just pull up one of those. Happy about Lando's championship, but would have been complete. Would it have been complete without the Pavaya rules? So everyone trying to put in the point that Lando Norris was there because Oscar Piastri was not allowed to be there. And my point here is, if he never gets a world championship car to fight again, he would be like, why was I not ready by my third season in Formula One? Not a lot of drivers get their third season in Formula One and they don't get a world championship winning car.
Yeah.
So I think if we have to be harsh, I think that's where it is. That Oscar Piastri's got to figure it out with the team, with his performance engineers. He cannot have such dips in a 24 race season. He was leading 15 races
Yeah.
out of 24. That's two
Yeah.
thirds of the season when he was leading the Drivers' World Championship. And where did he finish? Third.
Third.
Third. That was
The
13 points off.
yeah, the disqualification did not help, and
I mean, Silverstone didn't help with the
Silverstone didn't help.
FIA. Hungary
Yeah,
didn't help.
Hungary didn't
Monza
help.
didn't help. Yeah.
No, no,
And but
no.
interesting question from Alpha in terms of preference. Will they give preference to Lando since Lando's now world championship if it's if it's tight next year?
No, actually, I have a perspective on that. I think this is where I like McLaren for what they do because their way of doing things is preparation and talking about different circumstances and trying to favor nobody and trying to keep it equal. In a crunch situation when both drivers are fighting, that can backfire horribly, which almost went wrong, guys. Only 2 points. That's the margin by which Lando Norris won. Let's not forget. Like in all the midst of the glory and celebration, let's not forget the big bottle job that McLaren have done, which almost was a bottle job. But in terms of like favoring drivers, I think they'll start with the clean slate, discuss that, guys, this is what it is. And then it's on both drivers to adapt. An interesting thing on this, Will Joseph said Lando's been the one pushing the team lately. Earlier, when he signed, there was a document that they made on the things that Lando needs to improve on. And Will Joseph, Lando's race engineer, said that Lando's been checking these things off one by one. And now it's come to the point where he's leading the team. And that comes to mind when you think of the front suspension that McLaren came up with. The specific, I wouldn't call it an upgrade, but an update to the car only for Lando. And since that has come in, his confidence has grown in the machine. So that's one of the things that Lando has done to drive the team forward. I'm now looking to see what Oscar can do. Like, can he back it up? Can he do a little bit more and extract that 1/10 extra, just theoretically, and then maybe he's the one who's faster than Lando.
I'll tell you what, Lando Norris's checklist document needs to go to Ferrari. It doesn't need to just stay at McLaren. It needs to go to Ferrari as well. But we've discussed the top three. Soumil, let's give you the pleasure of talking about Carlos Sainz. I think that's
No. You're
no.
not hyping
We're
it
not
well
done
enough.
then. Okay, go.
We're not
Let's
you're
go.
not hyping it well enough. The greatest midfield comeback of the last 10 years that nobody wants to talk about because everyone's obsessed with Max. Nobody's going to talk about his old teammate. Carlos Sainz was 16th in the World Championship standings in Sanford. He's made it up to P8. He's the vice F1.5 world champion. And somehow, after being blown apart to pieces by Alex Albon in the first half, Sainz is 8th. And he's so close to Alex Albon in the end. Guys,
You
come
know,
on. Wait.
when I was in Qatar, and we had this fan zone, and all the drivers turn up one after another. The driver who received the biggest cheer was Carlos Sainz, and I think that just goes to show the sentiment that people have towards Carlos. The fact that he was probably hard done after last year, and still how he's been able to deliver. He's had a bit of a difficult start to the year, adapting to the car and everything. But after that, once he was well settled in, how many podiums does he have here? Two podiums, one top three in the sprint, and I think a couple of top three qualifying results as well. And it's a very Carlos Sainz thing. Whenever he goes to a team that's in disarray, he does the work of he does the repair job. He always takes them a step higher whenever he joins any team, be it with Toro Rosso, be it McLaren, then Ferrari, and now with Williams as well. He's a solid driver, but unfortunately, he's not got a top drive for him this year.
I think Williams is going to be a top team next year, just
I hope.
because of
I
just
hope.
because of James Vowles, Carlos Sainz, and Alex Albon. Alex Albon in the first half of the season, and you guys were there. We spoke to his manager, Shah, as well, right?
Yeah.
What a brilliant season he's had. Alex Albon has won the Formula 1.5 championship. He's finished seventh, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah, in the
Eighth,
drivers. Eighth,
Eighth?
right?
eighth,
Eighth.
Eighth.
eighth, and Carlos is ninth.
Ninth.
Carlos
Yeah.
is ninth, and Fernando's made it up to 10th after,
Amazing. By the way, it should not
yeah.
happen.
But
This is amazing.
let me, I was speaking to somebody at Williams, and very interestingly, one of the things Williams has to improve on is how do they manage two fast drivers? Because yes, they had Alex Albon fast in the first half of the season, but Carlos wasn't. And in the second half, yes, Carlos was fast, but Alex wasn't.
Yeah.
How can the team help both drivers get there? That's what they will be focusing on in the offseason. This P5 has come. It's been a welcome change, a team that, was very bold about it, saying we're going to put everything on 26 because the stakes are higher there, but they still extracted so much. And I think Carlos is definitely my driver of the season just because he's moved teams. Of all the drivers who moved teams in 2025, Carlos Sainz yet again the most adaptable driver, if that's even a word in the dictionary, or
Oh,
maybe,
yeah.
yeah,
That's exactly what I spoke to with Jensen Button on the Fan Code Gearbox podcast, which comes out in a few days. I asked him about his word for 26, and I said, "Is adaptability going to be your word?" He said, "Yeah, it's going to be down to adaptability." And power unit is the second word he referred to. And Williams next year have the most adaptable driver and what's believed to be the most stable power unit of them all. It's good going, good going. Should be exciting times. Last few things we need to touch upon. I think we should take a few comments. Firstly, Uttara said McLaren has staged a masterclass in saving corporate backsides and people management. Yeah, I agree. The story could have been so different. The narrative could have been so different if Lando Norris was passed by Charles Leclerc. And at one point, it looked like Leclerc was the faster driver. It just does not make any sense whatsoever, guys. But Leclerc was somehow great. Lewis was fast too. But as is always the case with Ferrari, it's too little, too late, Sundaram.
Yeah, it's a little too late, and I think they'd be happy that they're seeing the back of this car and this whole regulation set as well, because you see Ferrari's not won a title for so many years, and then you have a McLaren who's gone through that dip of 2015. They've been able to regroup, come back, win a constructors title, now win a drivers title. Ferrari is still nowhere, so they're going to be happy that they're seeing the end of this, and that late surge always happens with Ferrari. Even with last year, they came within, how many points was it, 14 points of winning the constructors title. So I hope things are in place for next year. I hope the processes are in place for next year. I hope communication is a lot more transparent and clear. And I hope things are at least better, if not the best, for Ferrari. Because seeing Lewis after the race, I think he had a very, I don't know what's the right word for it, but absolutely dejected post race interview, Kunal.
yeah.
And he's just looking forward to the break, and that's not,
He
it's
said
not a
he's going to put his
nice.
phone in the bin. He said, I'm looking
Ah,
forward to family time, Christmas time. I'm not thinking 2026. I'm living in the moment.
amazing.
But can we discuss Lewis Hamilton, right? Because he's of course used now. Let's remember this. It's the second time it's come out in the media that he's given a set of processes and structures and people and all that to Ferrari to use. Because if they continue doing things the same way, you can't expect different results, as we know in good management mantras out there. Is this Lewis's way of saving his backside for next year?
Oh,
If it doesn't work out again, because he's saying they're not listening to me. Remember with Mercedes, it was the same thing. He came out in the media and say, I'm sitting too forward, and then suddenly we had those images where the Mercedes cockpit seating position was way forward than the Red Bull, because Red Bull has always been the class in this era. Is this Lewis using the media again to show that it's not me, the team is not listening to me, so if it doesn't happen, don't blame me, but I can't do any more than this, because
no,
it's
but
the second time that's happened.
you're right. But this time, I don't think you can blame Lewis for this. This time, I think Lewis is right because history has given us so much evidence with Ferrari. It's it's not even funny. It's not even funny.
Yes, but there's a compliment coming your way. You spoke to Jensen Button. Wow, says Naveen.
It's
And
crazy.
Sarika is saying, Kunal saying Williams might be on in the top teams of 2026. Made my day. Yes, James Walls, what a guy that he's doing. Did Shal actually say? Shubham is saying Shal said on the radio next year is ours.
Really?
Did he say that?
Really?
Or are we just making this up?
I,
Okay.
I I hope he
Really?
didn't. I hope he didn't.
I hope he's learned by now. How many
But
years has
you
it
know, there
been?
was a driver who said next year is ours after winning in Abu Dhabi. That
Lando
was Lando
Norris.
Norris last year. He actually made it his year. Very tough, but he got there.
So are we basically putting Lando in a higher category than Charles because Lando is able to come true on his word and Charles is just bogged down by the weight of Ferrari? Is that what it is? Like have McLaren actually McLaren have outclassed Ferrari. Remember like 2007 2008 they were both neck and neck, and after that era of domination ended I was always in my head wondering which one of these teams is going to produce a drivers champion next? And that question kept on getting bigger and bigger as the years went on. Eventually, it was McLaren. After Sundaram mentioned the downfall of 2015, the divorce with Honda, the madness that happened, they were able to regroup themselves. But Ferrari, being true to themselves, are stubborn and slow. It's and
and
slidey.
and always giving us these little spurts of performance, 22, 17, 18, where you feel that okay, they're close enough. Even last year up until the season finale, then you remember that they had a very bad second quarter of the year. There's been performances, but very far and few in between. But McLaren's, what do you say, progression has been very linear and exponential upwards. It's never been a case of them falling down and falling down really bad like how Ferrari tends to do it. So yeah, fingers crossed for next year. I think it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be a very crowded top. I don't know what top four, top three, top five, whatever it is. It's going to be very interesting.
We should talk about one thing. Top four, top five, top three. We should talk about one of the drivers in the top three. The moment of the race. For me, one of the moments of the race, and I'm going to just put it there, was Sonoda and how, they were going to use him like they used Checo Perez in 2021. They told him, you know what to do. And then Sonoda saying, yes, I know what to do. There was an inner Checo in him that came up. Yuki just couldn't do it. And then his defense on Lando was actually embarrassing. He was right in getting that penalty because he was going like a snake, something that is not permitted in those regulations. And guess what? Lando actually did make that overtake on Yuki Tsunoda off track. So typically, Lando should have gotten a five-place grid penalty for that, but he didn't get it because the race control said, "Dude, what are you doing, Yuki? You just throw him off track." So
Yeah.
I think we got saved of a controversy out there because it could have been so close, right? Yuki gets a penalty, but guess what? Lando also gets a penalty. Could have so happened there and then itself.
Yeah, that was not fun. I mean, it was fun. It was like Yuki. That's not enough, man. Again, he was slightly unlucky that he got caught by Lando at the toughest point, which is the straight, and then it's almost impossible when someone has DRS and slipstream. But even then, it could have been more. But hey, let's take a second. We should do goodbyes properly to Sauber, Yuki Tsunoda, to the DRS, and all the other to Honda and Red Bull properly in the awards episode. We will talk about that, guys, and
You're
also rookie
forgetting
of the
Renault.
year.
You're forgetting Renault,
Oh
as
yeah.
always.
As of,
Do they
but
want
I,
to
I
remember?
I have a great story with Peter Sauber. I bumped into him a couple of times this weekend. I've had the privilege of having interviewed him, so he sort of remembered me from then. And I said, "So how do you feel, Mr. Sauber?" He said, "I feel satisfied."
Wow.
Those were his words. And then when the grid was being cleared for the 5-minute countdown that happens to the race for the formation lap, uh, the security was basically putting everyone out, and that's the standard protocol. But there was one man who was allowed to stand for a few more minutes, and that was Peter Sauber. And I actually have it. So if somebody's following me on Twitter or go follow me, I put up a video there. You could see he was standing, he was emotional, but he was soaking in the moment. He realized he had done all he could to get his team here. Of course, he sold his team several years ago, but now it's no longer called Sauber after today. it is going to be called Audi, because even when they ran BMW, it was BMW Sauber. Even when they ran Alfa Romeo and whatever, so many other brands that that they've brought
Yeah.
into Formula One, including Mercedes Benz. It was Sauber Mercedes. They brought Red Bull. It was, of course, Red Bull was one of the owners of the team at that time. So it was such a beautiful moment, and Formula One let him have that moment on the grid, saying, "Yes, Mr. Sauber, thank you very much, but enjoy this moment for yourself."
This is where I'd really like to compliment Stefano Domenicali. The man is class. I think you need a CEO running Formula One who knows Formula One and who knows the people that make Formula One. I also saw him at the farewell for a couple of journalists who'd been traveling the world for a long time. I'm not sure if Mark Hughes was one of those, but he was there to present them a special memento.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. Like that, no, again, I'm not blaming Chase Carey, but he was there for something else. His whole role was to broaden the spectrum for Formula One. But having someone like Stefano who's been so in touch with what the spirit of F1 is, and to appreciate the people who've made the sport for what they are, I think that's incredible. Next up, Bernie. Bernie never got his farewell. Bernie never got his farewell.
He got an ouster, right? He was made chairman emeritus, and then he got an ouster. But Bernie was there in the paddock as well. He was,
Did you meet him?
yes, I did. And what a guy, statesman, like he doesn't care about the
You met
media.
Bernie
And
Eccleston.
yes, I did. But that's not the first time, so that's why I probably have not mentioned it before. But
You've not told the stories of that. Okay, okay. Tell us. Okay, last thing. Bernie. What was Bernie Eccleston like? What was he like this weekend?
I think just everyone was just walking up to him and taking pictures, and he was obliging. And the Bernie I remember from the Bernie Eccleston era of Formula One would have also obliged, but with fewer smiles, probably definitely. But no, he was there, and he's of course in his 90s, so he was walking by himself without support. I think it's
Wow.
fantastic to
What
see
a
him there.
guy.
But no, but lots of Dr. Marco remembered as well. He said, "Yes, that's I remember you guys," and of course I speak to him anyway, even outside of the podcast. So he was saying, "Let's catch up in the off season." So let's see what that's all about. But yeah, lots of stories from Abu Dhabi. So what's coming up next in Formula One, Soumil? We've got the awards. We've got to fix a date. We will do it in person, all three of us.
Yeah.
I will be in Mumbai at the end of the week, but we've got the awards, and we should take a bit of a break. We'll
We,
put out some
we
of the other
really need to.
interviews.
We really need to take a break, man. It's it's a long, long year.
Are we
Oh
doing an
man.
event? Maybe we'll do a preseason event like we always do.
Yeah. Yeah, and Arvid Lindblad, of course, is also coming. We're gonna get to speak to him as well. He's coming next week. So lots of cool stuff happening in that direction too. So lots of fun content will be coming your way, guys. So
You're
stay
not going to
tuned.
get a break. You're not going to get a break for
Oh
sure.
What's a break?
man,
Are you talking
Launch.
about that, that good old chocolate you used to get? You can buy and eat it. You can get that break, Soumil.
I need to be at the studio in 6 to 7 hours to record an episode and then be in office and then prepare for a UCL match as well. It's life is beautiful that way. But no breaks for us, guys. No. Kunal, you need to come back to Mumbai soon. When are you
Yes.
flying down?
So I'm here for the rookie test with Kush on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday morning I fly back to Oslo. Then the three of us fly back on Friday afternoon. Yeah.
Insane. Insane. Naveen is saying Jensen, Arvid, great guys, keep it coming. Sundaram was also in the Formula 2 paddock in Kolkata. Not Kolkata. Kolkata, sorry, saying it's too late in the night. In
Wouldn't we
Qatar.
love that? Yeah.
It's too late, man. Come on.
On that note, we need to let Somil go and sleep, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. What a season finale. And thank you for all of you guys for supporting us for 24 races. It's yet another season of the Inside Line F1 podcast, this calendar year that we've done. As we mentioned, more episodes are coming. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow us on all of our personal social media handles and also on the Inside Line F1 podcast, Instagram and YouTube. But we should go now. Thank you guys for staying up with us. We'll catch you. Bye bye. I know. On behalf of the entire crew, by the way, since we're signing off for the season, we should say thank you to everyone who supported us on this journey. So, uh, Kunal, Sundaram, and I are just the faces of it, but There's also Sarang, who supported us a lot in terms of production. Parikshit, who helped us out in the start of the season with editing. And the person who's been there all across, helping us out big time with our social media content ideas and also the snippets that we post out and just keeping the vibe and spirit of the Inside Line F1 podcast alive. It's Uttara. So a huge shout out to her as well. But catch you guys shortly now. It's time to say goodnight. Bye bye.